Hello and good morning, students. Welcome to the e-learning program initiated by Shri Gyan Manjari Vidyapeeth for the students of Standard 9. Once again, good to see you in today's English Literature lecture for semester 1. In today's lecture, we will introduce ourselves to the second book, the second textbook from which we need to read, understand and evaluate, which is a literary reader or a supplementary reader given to us in our syllabus, that is Moments. Well, as discussed earlier, you will be taking the first 5 chapters for semester 1 out of the 10 given to us to read from this book. Chapters are The Lost Child by Mulk Anand, the one which we are going to read today, The Adventures of Toto by Ruskin Bond, Iswaran, the Storyteller by R.K. Lakshman, In the Kingdom of Fools, Kannada folk tale by A.K. Ramanujan, and the fifth one, The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. Well, before we get into the first chapter today, that is The Lost Child by Mulk Anand, and discuss more about it, let me ask a question on your behalf. That is, why a literary reader or a supplementary reader? Maybe this question comes to your mind. What's the need of it? Why should we be reading from this book? Well, so I will take the opportunity to answer this question to you, and maybe if it's a curiosity for you to know, to satisfy your curiosity. Well, a good reader is most often an independent learner and consequently, as a result, an independent thinker capable of taking his or her own decisions in life in a very rational form, rationally. This is what comes to my mind. Well, such a learner will most assuredly also be capable of critical thinking. So that's the reason why the literature book or the literature reader or a supplementary reader is introduced. This helps a student to read by himself on his own, because a student who reads on his own teaches himself, a self-learner. No doubt, the teacher is there to assist, to act as a mentor, to help him or her in every little phase of his difficulties that he comes through. But finally, learning something is vested within ourselves. Unless and until we push ourselves, we train ourselves. As I keep saying to lower class children, train your brain, because your brain is your brain. Unless and until you train yourselves, nobody can help you. There are teachers to guide you at every step. But finally, when you want to inculcate things, you have to do it by yourself. So, as I think that to develop a critical thinking, reading is very important. Therefore, the literary reader or the supplementary reader is a good tool for one to develop the skills of English language. Further, I would like to say, to bring books, that is physical books for reading, and children together is indeed a challenge in today's overexposed environment of media. But technology and media play an extensive role, an overwhelming role, because children are overexposed to media in this world of computers, mobile phones, gadgets. So it's very difficult for students to come and assimilate themselves, read. Therefore, at school level, it's important to introduce and read from a literary or a supplementary. Well, finally I can say, the purpose of inculcating the habit of reading among children is to create independent thinking, individuals with the ability to not only create their own knowledge, but also critically interpret, analyze and evaluate it with objectivity and fairness. If you think about this first story that we are going to read, that is written by Mulk Anand, though we will be discussing about him in a while. So, how he would have written this? He would have written this non-fictitious or non-fiction stories that we read, enjoy and take moral values from by independent thinking and critical thinking. So independent reading is very well. In your text you've been given a note for teacher. Well, it is for teachers, but alternatively even students can go through this because it gives us an important message. So let us see what's written in it and have a very quick word about it. Moments, a supplementary reader in English for standard 9 for you students, is meant for extensive reading. Extensive reading means we are already reading from the beehive. The beehive contains topics, lessons from different genres written by different authors and poets, but that is for the exam point of view. Remember, this is not much from the exam point of view, no doubt. This will carry some weightage in your paper that you will be attempting, but the main purpose of going through these 10 chapters in the supplementary reading is to boost up and completely polish your language, your spoken English, your interactive, your communicative skills. So when you go through this, be very careful and keep this somewhere in your mind at all given point of time when you read it. That this book is supposed to serve the purpose of brush up and boost up your reading, your communicative skills in a society. Well, further, this book is designed to promote a love for reading by exposing the learner to a variety of materials. So the book is going to contain a variety of materials that is important for a student, a learner, in order to inculcate the language and be a master of it. Well, further, an attempt has been made to provide learners with a rich reading experience through stories of mystery, adventure, courage, growing up, romance, wit and humor. So you see, all different flavors of life have been infused in these reading pieces, in these lessons. Well, these carefully selected pieces would cater to the needs and interests of adolescents, that is growing up children like you, and hold the mirror up to different aspects of life of people. You are growing children, isn't it? You have so many aspirations in your life. These pieces of reading will support your desires, your wishes, your creativity, your crave to know things. Well, the final passage, a deliberate effort has been made. Deliberate means purposefully, with an intention. Intentionally it has been done. What has been done? A deliberate effort has been made to gloss only some potential difficult words in the stories to aid the reading purpose. Deliberately some words have been infused. Difficult words have been infused. Few words have been infused. So that with the help of the meanings of these words, your vocabulary will increase. You will be able to use these words once known to you in your speech, and it will finally help you to speak well, speak good English. So keep this in mind. The few questions given under the Think About It section are all global questions designed to help learners develop their ability and intelligence and imaginative reading. So you see, whenever you read these chapters, try to create a visual imagery around yourself. So that will help you to understand the chapter, the situation, the scenario very well. The Talk About It section has discussion topics which take a constructive approach to the analysis of contemporary issues. The learners may be encouraged to interact with the classmates or senior, integrate their understanding of the issues and make a purposeful, personalized and imaginative oral presentation. Well, unfortunately we will not be able to do this because we are doing a kind of distance learning, e-learning program, so we will not be able to interact with each other, which would be a part of our learning. Unfortunately we cannot do it because we are not physically interacting with each other due to this pandemic time. Well, a list of suggested readings is given at the end of each story to encourage learners to read extensively and independently. Well, at the end of each chapter you will be finding one or two different pieces of reading being suggested. Alternative, you can read that if you are much interested in this. But without further ado, let's get into the first chapter and introduce ourselves about it, that is the lost child, as the name itself suggests that there is some element of a child being lost. But where does the child get lost? How does he get lost? After getting lost, is he able to meet up again with the people whom he has got separated from? So all these types of questions immediately arises in our mind, emerges in our mind when we read the title, The Lost Child, written by Mulk Raj Anand. Well, the name of the author also immediately suggests us that it is none else but the Indian writer. So Mulk Raj Anand is an Indian writer. So before we get into the details of the chapter and then finally read the chapter line by line, paragraph wise, let us understand about or read about Mulk Raj Anand with the help of the image being displayed on your screen. As you see, the picture of Mulk Raj Anand when he was young as well as when he is old. Mulk Raj Anand, who was born on 12th December 1905 in Peshawar, India, now in Pakistan. So earlier Peshawar was a part of India in 1905, you very well know, because India got independent in 1947, and before that the entire of Pakistan was no Pakistan, it was India. So we can say that he was born in India in a place Peshawar, and he left the world, he died on September 28, 2004 in Pune, that is after independence. He was a prominent Indian author of novels, short stories and critical essays in English. So he wrote in the English language. Who is known for his realistic and sympathetic portrayal of the poor in India. So most of his classic stories that he has written is portraying or is depicting the situation, how people used to live in India, the poor people living in India. So his stories show or give us an image of the difficulties that the poor class face in our country. So most of his stories will be woven around these things. He is considered a founder of English language Indian novels. So you see, this is something matter of pride to be taken. He is considered as a founder of the English language Indian novels. So English language used to write Indian novels or to bring the culture or the scenario of India in the English language. Further, he was the son of a coppersmith. So his father was a coppersmith by profession. Anand graduated with honours in 1924 from Punjab University in Lahore and pursued additional studies at the University of Cambridge and at University College in London. So you see, he went abroad to gain higher knowledge and pursue his degree. While in Europe, he became politically active in India's struggle for independence and shortly thereafter wrote a series of diverse books on aspects of South Asia culture, including Persian painting in the year 1930. He wrote curries and other Indian dishes. So he wrote about cooking also, 1932. So you can see he wrote a variety of books. A diversification of his writing can be seen in this few books that are named over here. The Hindu View of Art in the year 1933. The Indian Theatre he wrote in 1950, because that time we know the theatre was a different kind, cinema was a different kind of thing, isn't it? Unlike today what we have the modern cinema, it wasn't like that, it was a different thing. So he wrote a book about this as well. And 7 Little Known Birds of the Inner Eye in the year 1978. These are some of his diversified books that he has written into. Mulk Raj Anand was a prolific writer. Anand first gained wide recognition for his novels Untouchable in the year 1935, because we know untouchability was a menace, a problem that was prevalent in the pre-independent India. During the time of British, untouchability was a major issue in our country. So Anand wrote a book, a novel, and which brought him a lot of fame and recognition in this country. And the novel Coolie in the year 1936, the following year, both of which examined the problems of poverty in the Indian society. So the main central idea or his purpose of writing was to portray, to show the people of the country, to bring the problems of the Indian people, the Indian poverty in India that was prevalent in the society, to the limelight of the people. Well, in 1945, he returned to Bombay, now called Mumbai, to campaign for national reforms. Among his other major works are The Village in the year 1939, The Sword and the Sickle in 1942, The Big Heart 1945. Anand wrote other novels and short story collections and also edited numerous magazines and journals, including Mag, an art quarterly that he founded in 1946. He also intermittently worked on a projected 7-volume autobiographical novel entitled 7 Ages of Man, completing 4 volumes. 7 Summers, 1951, Morning Face, 1968, Confession of a Lover, 1976, and The Bubble in the year 1984. Well, so we've had an extensive look into the writer Mulk Raj. Well, after this, let's look into the story that we are going to introduce ourselves with, that is The Lost Child. To give you an overview about the story The Lost Child, in just one line I can say that this is a story written by Mulk Raj Anand, showing that a child who gets lost in a fair and gets separated from his parents, and probably it is not told to us by the end of the story whether he was able to reunite or have a reunion with his parents. So it's going to be a very interesting story about a child whom Mulk Raj Anand has shown is from a poor family and has got a number of desires, just like you children have got desires, isn't it? You ask things from your parents, and many times they are not providing you those things, and you happen to develop the notion in your mind sometimes, isn't it? The parents are not good. That's not the case. They must be knowing the good for you, the bad for you, and that is the reason they may not be bringing those things for you. So here is a story about a family and a child who have come to a fair, and probably the child is demanding for a few things at the fair, and the parents are unaffordable to buy those things. They don't have the affordability to buy those things for the child, and therefore the entire story develops that Mulk Raj Anand is telling us. So without further ado, let's go through the lines of the reader and try to acknowledge what has been told to us. A child goes to a fair with his parents. He is happy and excited and wants sweets and toys displayed there. So it's quite natural, isn't it? When you go to a fair, what do you see? Try to create this imagery view around in your mind. Then it will be very easy for you to understand the chapter. So a child goes to a fair with his parents. Naturally, a small child you can understand, not a very grown-up one. He is happy. Naturally, when you visit a fair, you're not sad, you're happy because you're going to see a number of things over there. People dressed in colorful clothes, a lot of stores or shops putting up number of things you can buy over there, enjoy sweets over there. So he is happy and excited and wants sweets and toys. But that's the first thing a child wants, a young child wants, is it? Sweets and toys, because they are the most attractive things for a child. Apart from that, you can say there are a number of rides that a child would be wanting to ride upon, isn't it? Well, so here is a child who is wanting sweets and toys, but his parents don't buy them for him. Now, there could be a reason over there, and if I just try to connect the reason, probably where Mulk Raj Anand is showing the poor classes of people in these stories, so I can very well assume that here this family who will be having this father would not be able to afford these things for his child, probably. Well, why then he refuses when someone else offers them to him? So, when his parents did not buy it for him and someone else was offering the same thing, the toys, the sweets, the child refused. Why did he do so? So, in order to find out the answer to this question, we'll have to read the story. So, let's go through it. It was the festival of spring. From the wintry shades of narrow lanes and alleys emerged a gaily clad humanity. You see the opening lines of the chapter telling us, describing the season where the story has been set. That is, it was the time of spring when new leaves emerge, isn't it? The winter is about to end and the summer is about to start. So it was the festival of spring, and during spring festival what happens? There are a number of fairs arranged. So from the wintry shades of narrow lanes and alleys emerged a gaily clad humanity. From small lanes, small narrow lanes, some people came out, a family came out. A family was coming from there. They were going somewhere. So we got two important words to understand over here: alleys and gaily clad humanity, the phrase over there. So understand these words. Alleys means narrow passages. Alleys means narrow passage. Emerge means to come out, to appear from that place. Gaily clad humanity. Gaily means happy, happily. Happily clad. Clad means wearing different kind of, clad means dressed, or basically say dressed. So happily dressed and humanity. Humanity here refers to people. So people dressed in colorful or happy clothes, whatever they had. They emerged, they came out from narrow lanes and alleys or narrow passages. Some walked, some rode on horses, others sat, being carried in bamboo and bullock carts. One little boy ran between his father's leg, brimming over with life and laughter. See how beautifully the writer Mulklak Anand has used words to bring life into its story over here. He has used these difficult words that will help us to increase our vocabulary. He is describing how people were going somewhere. They were approaching to some place. So during this springtime, he is mentioning the scene that some were walking on foot, some were riding on horses, others sat. So it's different people from different walks of life, whoever was able to afford whatever it is. Some who would not be having any vehicles would be walking. So here it is being described that a family was walking, dressed in happily dressed in clothes. So some walked, some rode on horses, some sat, some were simply sitting. And so we see a number of people doing different activities, isn't it, when you look around yourself. And some were being carried in bullock carts. At that given point of time, he is beginning the main story. One little boy ran between his father's leg, isn't it? Children are small children, particularly very small children, are very playful. They run about here and there. And in the running here and there, what happened? He is approaching to some place, he must be watching something here and there, and maybe his parents went a little further. So he came running between the legs of his father. Isn't it? That's usually when children do. They just dash into their parent and accidentally or probably they come between the legs of their parents. Therefore, so one little boy ran between his father's legs, brimming over with life and laughter. He was full of life and laughter. Brimming means, if you consider a glass, isn't it? Full of water. Say the water is filled up to the edges over there. We say the glass is filled up to the brim. Brim means the edges. So the child was brimming with what? He was completely overflowing with life and laughter. Small children are completely tensionless. They have got no worries at all, isn't it? So he was full of life and laughter, and as he was just running here and there, happened to come and dash with his father, came between his legs. So here is the first paragraph giving us the introduction of the story. Well, "Come child, come," called his parents as he lagged behind. So it's very clearly mentioned that the child was lagging behind. The parents had moved a little further and the child was left behind. But they had a watch on their child. Okay, So come child, come. The parents are trying to call the child. Maybe he's seeing something over there as they were going to some place. Fascinated by the toys. You see, they were going to a fair over here. As we just read, they were going to a fair. So what do we see in a fair? We see in a fair toy shops, sweet shops, rides. The child was just observing this thing. Naturally, he's a small child. He would be having this desire and wish the moment he enters or that starting point of that fair over there. Like, even I want these toys. I want to have the sweets. I want to sit in the merry-go-round or the other rides over there. So he was fascinated. He was completely attracted by these toy shops that lined in the way. So in a line there were toy shops. Like we have, isn't it? 2, 4, 5, 7 toy shops all in a line selling different varieties of toys. So this child was completely fascinated and captured by the idea of buying toys. He hurried toward his parents, his feet obedient to their call. See the beautiful line. This is the beauty of learning English, isn't it? He hurried towards the parent. Means he quickly ran and went towards his parent's side. What are the words used by the writer? His feet obedient. It doesn't mean that it's only his feet who are obedient. But is the child also obedient, isn't it? But that's the way of saying the child being obedient is being just mentioned with the help of that little word, his feet obedient. We learned about it, isn't it? Transferred epithet. So his feet obedient to their call. The moment the parents called the child, come. So the child just ran towards them, although he was watching the toy shop lined everywhere with different toys. Maybe he had the desire in his heart to buy those toys. So his obedient feet ran to the call of his parent, his eyes still lingering on the receding toys. See the new word receding. The toys which were leaving behind, receding. So as you pass, isn't it, you leave the shops behind. As the child would be running, what would be happening? The toy shops would be leaving behind. That's the receding toys, the leaving away toys. The toys that were getting away from him. So his eyes were lingering, his eyes were looking back. Although he was going towards his father's side. But he was turning back all the time and he was not ready to let off his eyes over those toys. Therefore, the author has used the lines, his eyes still lingering on the receding toys, the toys that were leaving him. As he came to where they had stopped to wait for him. So finally, running, the child came and stopped where the parents were waiting for him to come because he had been left behind. Naturally, that's the duty of a parent to keep the child within. He could not suppress his desire of his heart, even though he well knew the old cold stare of refusal in their eyes. See, what is the child thinking now? What is the thought process going on in his mind? As he came to where they had stopped to wait for him, he could not suppress the desire. So, where his parents were waiting for him to get reunited, to get again together, where his parents had stopped over there, they were not going further. When the child came to that junction, to that point, he was not able to stop himself. He was not able to express his desire and ask his parents, although the child very well knew. He was aware about the cold stare in his father's eye, that is refusal. In a very cold, in a very blunt manner. No, you are not going to get this toy. I am not going to buy it for you. The child very well knew that the father is not going to buy these toys for me. Despite of that, he was not able to stop himself and he expressed his desire, his wish. Although he had seen, still he happened to say these words. What did he say? I want that toy. He pleaded, he requested. Pleaded means to make a very keen request, a very ardent request. Please, for God's sake, do this for me. Something like that. So to make a very strong request is called pleaded. So I want that toy. He pleaded, the little boy pleaded. His father looked at him, red-eyed, in his familiar tyrant's way. Tyrants means a kind of a dictator, someone who is ruling over others. Isn't it? That's tyrant. A king or a ruler who is a very strict ruler is called a tyrant. So a kind of a dictator. So in a very dictating manner, as a dictatorship, the father looked with all red eyes, means he stared his eyes now. Although the child knew in a very cold manner, the father would not buy him those toys. Despite of that, he could not stop his desire and he happened to ask, he happened to please, I want that toy. To this, what was the response of the father? His father looked at him red-eyed in his familiar tyrant's way, dictator's way, in a very strict and stern manner. Obviously, fathers are at times strict, isn't it? Well, maybe his father was that poor and he was not able to afford, or maybe he found that with the little means that I had, little money that I had, I cannot buy this for my child, because he may be requiring to save that money in the fair for some other purpose also, isn't it? Well, so his father looked at his son, his boy, with a red eye, in anger, and in a tyrant way, in a dictatorship. Although he did not speak any words, he expressed a refusal, saying that no, I am not going by. He just stared at him. Well, to this, naturally, mothers have got love and affection for the children. In order to save the child from the father's anger, what did the mother do? His mother melted by the free spirits of the day and was tendered, and giving him her finger to hold, said, "Look, child, what is before you?" So this is how the mother tries to draw the attention of the child and deviate his mind from the thinking, from the thought of buying toys, and to spare him from the father's anger. What did the mother do? She gave her finger to the child to hold my finger, because he was a very small child. Naturally, the child would be holding because he has that feeling that I would get lost in the thing. To hold his finger and said, "Look, child, what is before you?" So the mother is trying to draw the attention of the child by diverting his eyes, diverting his mind, and showing him something else over there. Look, what is before you? It was a flowering mustard field. What is the mother showing now? A flowering mustard field. Completely lush green over there, isn't it? A mustard field over there, full of mustard. Pale like melting gold. It is yellow in color, isn't it? So, pale like yellowing melting gold, as it swept across miles and miles of even land. The flat land, the even land over there was completely covered, lush green and yellow over there, completely fully covered with mustard and mustard seeds growing over there. So the mother tried to draw the attention of the child towards the field, so that he forgets about buying the toy. Naturally, that is how the mother was trying to just take control of the situation that may not get into a verse 1. Well, what is she further telling child? A group of dragonflies were bustling about on their gaudy purple wings, intercepting the flight of a lone black bee or a butterfly. So, in search of sweetness from the flowers. That's the role of the insect, isn't it? When you look at a field, what will you find? When you see a field full of mustard seeds, naturally you will find, and first thing comes to your mind is insect. Insects would be really bustling here and there everywhere. All sorts of insects. Tell me, sir. Bees, butterflies, ghast, isn't it? So, dragonflies, all this you will be seeing hovering around the entire field over there. What's the job of that thing? To suck the nectar, the sweetness of the flowers. That is what they want. That is the work of those insects over there. So, the mother was trying to show this beauty of the fight, the lone fight between the butterfly and the grass and the dragonfly and the other insects that she could name over there. She is describing the dragonfly also. The dragonfly was a very beautiful looking one over there. Describing its color over there, isn't it, as gaudy purple color over there. So she is trying to draw the attention of her son towards the mustard field with the insects that were fluttering and hovering around them, and the activity they were doing. The child followed them in the air with his gaze till one of them would still its wings and rest, and he would try to catch it. Well, so what did the child do? Now this was a fun for the child, isn't it? This becomes a plaything for the child. And it's just a child. Immediately you will be able to just change the mind. So immediately the thought of buying the toy vanished from the child's mind, and now he was attracted towards this activity of playing, going and catching those colorful insects over there. It's the butterfly. Dragonflies usually we catch, isn't it? The child followed them in the air with his gaze, with his fixed look over there. Gaze means to look fixedly. He was looking fixedly at one of the dragonflies till one of them would sit in its wings. So he was waiting so that one of the flies would come and sit on one of the flowers over there and rest over there. And what he would do? He would try to catch it. So he was waiting to get a chance for one of the dragonflies to come and sit on one of the flowers over there, and then he would be catching them. But it would go fluttering, flapping up into the air when he had almost caught it in his hand. So almost the child had caught one of the butterflies or one of the insects over there. Where all the others were flapping here and there. Then his mother gave a cautionary call. When he was busy with these activities, what happened? The mother gave a cautionary call. Come child, come on to the footpath. So the mother is calling the child. He was in the field over there and they were on the footpath on the other side over there. So the mother is giving a cautionary call because the mother is very cautious. They have come to the fair over here. So she does not want her child to get lost over here, isn't it? So as a part of precaution, as a part of cautionary warning, she calls out to her child and say, come child, come on to the footpath. Because she was on the footpath over there, the father was over there, they were observing things, they were seeing things, they were also enjoying the fair over there. Well, he ran towards his parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while, being however soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and worms along the footpath that were teeming from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. So what happened once again? The boy, when he was called by his mother as a cautionary warning, as a cautionary call, the obedient child once again crossed the road from the other side of the mustard field and came to the footpath where the mother was standing and calling out to his son. And abreasted means walked along with them for some time. So the child started walking along with them, abreasted with them for some time. So abreasted means to just walk along side by side. Okay, so the child started walking along with his parents, but for some time, very soon, what happened? Again, he saw something. What did he see? He saw the footpath teeming out, or worms and insects that were teeming out. They were just coming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. So after having enjoyed the grasshopper, the dragonflies in the field, this is the second time the child is getting attracted towards insects that were teeming out. They were popping out from their hiding places on the footpath over there. So the parents kept on walking, thinking that the child is walking along with them. But here the child was once again halted over here to play with the teeming insects and worms that were coming out from the hiding places. Well, the child again found out some activity for him to engage himself. Once again, when the mother saw, when they had reached a place, come child, come, his parents called out from the shade of a grove where they had seated themselves on the edge of a well. He ran towards them. So once again, after having walked for some time to a distance, the mother and father sat on the edge of a wall under a shady tree to take rest. So when they reached there, when they sat there, they saw that the child was a little left behind from them. He was playing in the mud over there. So once again, it's the third time the mother called the child. So you see how careful they were. They were intermediately they were just seeing. The mother was observing that her child is not left behind. Well, so once again when the mother called, he ran and came towards them. This time what happened? A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered. Sometimes what happened? You just pass by a place and lots of flowers, they just scatter from the tree and they fall upon you. So it feels like as if the flowers are showering, the shower of flowers are coming upon you. So this incident happened with him. A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered the grove. And forgetting his parents, so once again he forgot his parents that they were sitting over there. When he entered the grove, he had just reached over there the grove and these flowers started falling upon them. So again his mind got diverted and he started collecting those. He began to gather the raining petals in his hands. So once again he got an activity, soon making him forget about his parents. So see, but this activity of his collecting flowers did not last for a long time. But lo, he heard the cooing of the doves and ran towards his parents shouting. Where his parents were sitting in that tree probably. The doves were cooing. So again his mind was diverted, changed from that play over there of collecting the flowers. He ran to see the dove. The dove, that is how he shouted and ran towards his parent. The raining petals dropped from his forgotten hands. So now he was interested, his interest changed into those doves over there, the sound of the dove. Therefore he forgot that he had the collected raining petals in his hand, which he probably dropped down, and it was forgotten by his hand. Come child, come, they called to the child, who had now gone running in wild capers. So what happens? The child now went into the wild capers. Wild capers means a banyan tree which has got surrounded by some of its regrown branches. We say it's a wild caper. Around the banyan tree. So around the banyan tree, he was trying to find out those doves over there that were cooing inside over there. And gathering him up, they took the narrow winding path which led to the fair through the mustard field. So through the mustard field, the winding path, left and right and twisty and turning the entire, because they were going towards the fair. And while they were going towards the fair, the actual fair, they happened to witness a shop over there, the mustard field. So they were leading towards the fair now. Well, as they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of throngs converging to the whirlpool of the fair. As the fair was nearing, he was able to see, as they were nearing that particular village where the fair was being held, he could see many other footpaths, many other pavements of throngs converging, meeting point, converging to the whirlpool of the fair. That is the entire fair where the things were there, the whirlpool. We know what's a whirlpool, isn't it? So here it is depicted as whirlpool over here. A lot of activities going on over here, merry-go-rounds and giant wheels and many other stalls offering many kind of recreational things. So the writer has used the word over here, the whirlpool of the fair. Well, converging and felt at once repelled and fascinated by the confusion of the world he was entering. So he was about to enter, or he was entering a world which was completely fascinating, completely attracting, mesmerizing thing he was about to see. Isn't it? When a child sees something that is not the normal that he is living, isn't his house, his street, his veranda, his area where he is, and suddenly he comes, or he has come into a place where he finds such a lot of activities to do, such a lot of enjoyments over here. So he was at once repelled and fascinated by the confusion of the world he was entering. He was completely repelled to this. Well, a sweetmeat seller hawked gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi, isn't it? So what did he see over there? A sweetmeat mart, a sweet shop, a shopkeeper shouting out his goods and wares that he wanted to sell. And what names he was taking? He was shouting out all those names. When you hear this, even when you and I, isn't it? You being in class 9 and myself, if you happen to hear these things, what happens? Immediately we are attracted. We have a crave for eating such things. Or even if we don't have, we just plan to buy that, isn't it? Today also when you are reading this, gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi, isn't it? Maybe you go and buy, or you demand for these things and you will get it. So a sweetmeat seller hawked. He shouted out his goods and wares that he wanted to sell. So buy gulab jamuns, buy rasgullas or barfi or jalebi, whatever he had made, he wanted to sell. At the corner of the entrance, and a crowd pressed around his counter at the foot of an architecture of many colored sweets. See the beautiful lines Mulk Raj Anand has used to amplify the language that he has used. So a wonderful piece of reading. A sweetmeat seller hawking out his things at the corner of the entrance, and a crowd pressed. A crowd press means number of people gathered, is it? When you go to a sweet shop, what do you see? You don't see someone who is very famous for selling sweets, particularly when it is a fair and people want to buy, they come here to spend money to eat goodies over here. So what he could see, number of people pressing around, gathered around. So a number of people pressed around, just very close to each other, trying to ask for things. Please give me for this much amount, please give me this much. Some asking with quantity, some asking with the number of money what they had. So a crowd pressed around his counter, the sweet shop counter over there. He has a counter, across the counter he's selling. At the foot of an architecture of many colored sweets decorated with leaves of silver and gold. We know that good sweets that we come across, they are perforated, they are decorated, they are having a layer of silver coating and gold coating, silver leaves and gold leaves on it, isn't it? To make it more attractive and more beautiful for the customer to buy them. So he could see these things, he could smell those things, he could smell the aroma of the sweets. isn't it? And he was longing to taste the flavors. So this is the child having a desire in his heart. When he had just seen, the moment he entered, this is the first shop he had seen. It's a sweet shop. Well, the child stared open-eyed and his mouth watered for the barfi that was his favorite. So everyone has his or her own favorite sweets, isn't it? Some like gulab jamun, some like jalebi. The child over here liked barfi a lot. And hearing the word barfi, he was completely fascinated. So the child stared open-eyed. So he was just looking at the barfi with an open eye. And his mouth was watering. Maybe I could get that piece of barfi to eat. He was just longing to have that barfi. That was his favorite sweet. Similarly, like the previous time, where he knew that father would not buy toys, but despite of that, he took up a chance. And he said to his father, I want toys. Similarly, again he is saying, I want barfi. He slowly murmured. Because last time what happened? When he said, I want toys, the father had looked at the child with red eyes. At a very anger-filled eyes he had looked at. So he was a bit scared. Therefore, with the scariness in his heart, with that scare in his heart, he was a bit reluctant to ask his father to buy. But still, he gathered the courage to ask his father, I want that barfi. He slowly murmured in a very soft voice, murmured way. But he half knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded because his parents would say he was greedy. So, without waiting for an answer, he moved on. This time, he very well knew that father would say that you are a greedy child. All the time you keep on asking things. You are a very greedy boy. Maybe he was ready to hear this answer. He was pre-prepared to get this answer from his father or from his parents. So, but half he knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded. So, he knew that despite of making this request, despite of my plea, I would not be getting to eat barfi because his parents would say that he was greedy. So, without waiting, the moment he said this, I want barfi, he did not wait for any answer to get from his parents. Simply he moved on, he went away. He did say that I want barfi, but he did not wait to get a reply, he just moved on. Well, we take a pause today over here, having read this much. In the upcoming lecture, we will read and understand the rest of the story and find out the end of the story. Till then, take care, have a nice day and goodbye.